Hello and welcome to another modeling video. This is Alan from the Mokonaman at YouTube with another model video. I buy and flip a lot of hobby goods through my business, the Salt Mine Hobby Shop, and was offered a vintage Iwata Revolution BCR in non-working junk condition. This tried and tested design is still available today with the HP version plastic bottle and a premium plus variant, both retailing approximately 10,000 yen or between $150 and $300. The Eternals are nothing special compared to other makes, models, especially generic ones out there. Talking about that, here's my old BRC with a hseng. Majority of the threads are compatible. I'll be taking you through a full restoration and cleaning process, including swapping of parts and lubricating the Eternals. The biggest difference and negative drawback is the siphon fed component, which was very popular from the 80s, 90s and early 2000s. Wanting to learn to airbrush back then, this was the most desirable and unaffordable airbrush, and demonstrated by influencers, online famous modelers and magazines and tutorials such as Fine Scale Modeler. The airbrush came to me missing the needle and the end crown. The nozzle was split and damaged. The top of the siphon cup was torn off, with the plastic heavily corroded and brittle to the touch. The outside may have been dirty with paint spills, but the internals were perfectly clean already and no sign of actual use. Quick pull down, I lubricated the threads and the rear assembly for a very smooth flow by pulling the trigger back. All mechanisms work and accounted for. A bad design feature, the air valve is a part of the greater airbrush. Sticking a back of a needle at the top found that all the O-rings and mechanisms move freely and easily. The tiniest amount of oil was dropped into it for future prolonged use. The trigger brass was glazed. It does take a while for this particular assembly style to be put together, harder to do so on camera, so it's forgiven to be very clumsy. Future designs are far more streamlined. Needle nozzle is a 0.3mm, a generic $1-2 one bought off AliExpress, eBay, Amazon that fits on the hseng and other Iwatas. Pushed through with no resistance, and I got 1 mil of needle sticking out, which is ideal for atomization. What the thread was not compatible with was the crown, and before I was going to draft one up, as everything I had in stock didn't fit, I found this on Thingiverse. It's a tomahawk and does not quite fit. I could have upsized it, though I rather to ream it out a little bit further and attempt to cross thread or dig into the material to attach on the end. There's no trouble, works perfectly well. I can twist it on and off. Only downside is dropping it, it will split or break the fins of the crown. The assembly concluded with the attachment of the needle nut and the adding of the rear cover, which did not have a needle stopper. Moving to the siphon bottle, you can buy aftermarket replacement ones, both in glass and plastic in various sizes. I wasn't keen on spending any money or waiting for a long period of time of coming in, so I've experimented by using construction adhesive like liquid nails, and it sealed and supported itself quite nicely after a few goes. It did thicken the lid quite a bit. All assembled and ready to go, we filled up the vial. Two advantages of siphon fed is you can check for the viscosity of the paint by swirling in the glass and hold a much larger volume of paint. Another downside, and this goes for all siphon fed, is the cumbersome way of holding it and fitting your finger between the air hose and the bottle. If you're using a water filter like I am, which was developed much later on in the airbrushing game, there's not a lot of comfortable room to play around. Other disadvantages is the stability and angle you can hold your siphon fed, as paint will only flow holding it level, though this one with a fair amount of paint in the tank, I can spray at a 30 degrees above and below the horizontal line. With lacquer thin paint, it flows fairly nice, does splutter a bit with the trigger all the way back due to how far it has to suck the paint up. Bit of a flow delay from the siphon being empty. Cleaning does take significantly longer by disassembling, flowing paint through it and cleaning the glass jar and siphon. Other than that, definitely not worth the $150 price tag or more, where it pretty much performs just as good, if not inferior, to a hseng around the $10 to $30 mark. In conclusion, this is a really cool airbrush. I'm glad I've restored it. Felt I've done a fairly decent job in putting it together and getting it to work again. Very nice historical and piece of nostalgia and history of the hobby and airbrushing all together. Kind of nice that it's still available. If the siphon fed is your jam, this is most likely the way to go. Otherwise, nothing special. I'd pass on it. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, until next time, stay tuned for further content and we'll catch you guys next time. See ya.